Welcome back to another episode of Georgia Sports Nation. I got some more Hawks and Braves content on the way for you guys today. We're going to be talking about the Hawks' recent run, 6-1 in their last 7 games, playing well. Jalen Johnson returns to the lineup 2 games ago. Struggles a bit in Chicago, but then has his first career triple-double, tying his career high with 28 points last night against the Detroit Pistons in a crazy game. Malachi Flynn, 50 points in that game, but the Hawks were able to overcome it and still come out with the win. And then you also have the Hawks in general just dealing with still a ton of injuries. Going to give a bit of an injury update, see who's on the up as far as coming back, and then who's still maybe is it like a week or two away. For Braves, they have started playing. We're going to be recapping some Braves games again on the show. Excited to say that once again. Talking about the series win in Philly and the series split in Chicago on the South side against the White Sox. The third game of that series was canceled, postponed. So it was only a 2-game series, and then previewing the series against the Diamondbacks starting tomorrow at the end of the show. But without further ado, let's get into it. So the Atlanta Hawks, 6-1 in their last 7 games. We know that Trae Young has been out. We know that Onyeka Okongwu has still been out, and those really are still the 2 guys that need to come back. Onyeka, in my opinion, seems like he's a little bit further away returning than Trae Young. That reevaluation date is only with 3 or 4 days left in the regular season, so that's not too promising. And then for Trae, I don't know. I don't think he'll come back this week. Maybe a possibility of next week, which is when the season ends. But if I had to put it in most likely, I don't think either of them will come back as far as in full shape at the regular season. The Hawks did clinch a spot in the play-in last night with a win over Detroit, so maybe you'll see them back for that play-in game, but hopefully sooner rather than later. But over this stretch of games, you've really seen the Hawks play well on defense. Obviously, offensively, it's been a little bit up and down. DeJounte Murray with an absolute incredible month of March. I thought he was should have won Player of the Month. He did win Player of the Week last week for the Eastern Conference, but Jalen Brunson ended up taking home Player of the Month. Obviously, when the Hawks had that win streak, against the Celtics, against the Blazers, then against the Celtics again, DeJounte Murray was playing really, really well, and he's still playing pretty well. He's not on the heater that he was at that point, but Jalen Johnson is back for the Hawks. And last night, you saw his full potential on display. The passing, the vision, the creativity, the playmaking, the shooting was there as well. I think he went 2 of 4 from beyond the arc. 28 points, a career high 11 assists. I believe he added 14 rebounds and 4 steals to that as well. So just a monster stat line from Jalen Johnson in his second game back. And we've seen a lot of a mix of the starting lineup over the last 7 games. Before Jalen came back, we know that DeAndre Hunter and Vit Krejci were starting, but Quinn Snyder elects to start Jalen Johnson over Vit Krejci, and I think this is the right choice. Obviously, Hunter is the better player than Vit, but something that Vit provided when he was in the starting lineup with Jalen sidelined was that secondary playmaker outside of DeJounte Murray. Bogey did handle the rock a lot, and he can make plays as well, but Vit is more that true playmaker, passer rather than the scoring type that Bogey is. But with Jalen back, I don't really think there's as much need for a playmaker. There's more need for shooting, and DeAndre Hunter has been shooting the 3 ball especially well over the last few games. 4 out of the last 8 games, he shot above or at least 40% from 3. Also had 4 20-point games in his last 8. So he's been playing really well, and Quinn Snyder's rewarding him with starting. And the most encouraging thing about his play as of late is continuing what he did off the bench earlier in last month and for February as well, because it was clear that Atlanta wanted to limit his minutes. He came off the bench when he definitely could have been starting, and when Saddiq Bey went down with that torn ACL, it kind of forced Quinn Snyder's hand a little bit to start DeAndre with Jalen on the sideline. He's had 2 ankle injuries recently, actually, but for Dre, it's really key that he just continues to shoot the ball without any hesitation, and that's what he's been doing recently. The three balls going in at a high rate. He's averaging a career high points, 3-point percentage, and 3-point attempts. A lot of that has to do with Quinn Snyder. The confidence in his guys, especially offensively. So many guys are having career years offensively for the Hawks overall. You've got Trey, DeJounte, Jalen, DeAndre, Garrison Matthews, Vit Krejci, just to name a few there, who have been playing really well offensively for the most of the season. But in these last specific games, I don't necessarily know if the Hawks are doing anything different. But what I do think is that they're playing more than, how do I want to put this? They're playing to how they're supposed to play, which is getting a lot of threes up like Quinn Snyder wants to do. Now, it's a challenge. It's a little bit more of a challenge without Trey, but they've been on a heater from the three-point line recently. They've been shooting it really well, and it's just been great to see the offense who, at the beginning of the stages without Trae Young, they went through a lot of struggles. There would be offensive ruts throughout the game where maybe they go 5-6 minutes only scoring 4 points without a field goal or something like that. But you're seeing those kind of offensive droughts fewer and far between now for the Hawks, and that's just something that's been with the team kind of just adjusting to playing without Trae Young. And when he comes back, hopefully he does in the regular season, it'll be interesting to see if that still is the case. Obviously, the team I don't think is better without Trae Young. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they can if they can still kind of if they can continue their success as of late. But I want to go into a little bit more about the game in in Atlanta last night against Detroit, because Jalen Johnson absolutely dominated this game from start to finish. You saw in the Chicago game, he hit his first 3 shots, but then struggled the rest of the game. He hit one of his next 9, finishing 4 of 12 from the field for 11 points. But in this game, from start to finish, it was just clear domination. Jalen was able to get in transition, finish at the rim. He's able to shoot from 3 well. And the passing on display last night was one of his best games of his career in that regard. Definitely a career high in assists there. But just the type of reads that he was making. The play where he found DeAndre Hunter, I believe it was in the fourth quarter, or was it the third? It was in the second half, I know that. But for a nice pass when Dre cut to the basket, that was really good. You saw Jalen have a skip pass to the corner. I think DeAndre hit a 3 there as well. Just kind of some of these passes, the reads that he's been able to make just coming back is ridiculous. But yeah, Frank, I was gonna talk about this for a few minutes here, because Malachi Flynn, yes, Malachi Flynn, his season high this year was 17, and he scores 50 points. The Hawks get the win. That's the most important thing. But I don't know how man, he made everything. I think he was 18 of 25 from the field. Yes, he was 18 of 25 from the field, 5 of 9 from deep, and 9 of 12 from the free throw line. But the thing that kind of worries me the most about how Flynn got his points were from the free throw line. Normally, he's a guy that doesn't like to attack the rim a lot. He's more of a catch and shoot or shoot it off the dribble type of a 3-point shooter. But the way he was able to get to the rim and attack the middle of the floor is a little worrying for the future games for the Hawks. DeJounte Murray and Kobe Buffkin really had trouble keeping him out of the lane and he played a lot of minutes, obviously 34 minutes. Monty left him in the game because he was cooking there. But yeah, just a strange game for sure against the Pistons. I didn't really understand. I don't really understand how the Hawks were trying to defend him. It just looked like they weren't trying to stop him. Now, obviously, he did make some plays, and Quinn Snyder said in his post-game conference they try to be more aggressive with him in the second half. But credit to him, he made a lot of plays. And yeah, I do agree with that. But I think, especially in that first half, the defense was very lackluster on him, and he was just able to get it going. And when you have a player who's not going to really play that much with that much confidence, especially going into the second half when they scored 17 points, they're like, okay, this can become a 30-piece for me off the bench. And then they kept going into 40. And then before you know it, off a steal to make the game just a 5-point lead for the Hawks, he gets the layup and it's 50 points. So it can snowball in a hurry there, and that's how it did for Flynn. I thought the late game execution for the Hawks in this game was pretty poor. After that turnover that led to Flynn's layup, they kind of settled down, no more turnovers, took care of the game at the free throw line. But before that, the game should not have been close down the stretch. The Hawks took a double-digit lead with 3 minutes to go, and after that, they had a couple turnovers, and they weren't able to get organized offensively. So against a young team like the Pistons, you only give them that confidence to try to come back into this game. And credit to Detroit, they stayed in the game. They never really waved the white flag, and they stayed in the game all along pretty much. The Hawks got up double digits serve for the most part in the game, but the Pistons never lied down. Yeah, rim protection is a concern. Then today versus my Mavs, you can give a better picture since we're winning by scoring the paint a lot. Okay, yeah. I think honestly, the rim protection for the Hawks is pretty good as far as Capella and Okongwu. I think Bruno really Okongwu was out. I think Bruno really struggled last game, so hopefully he has a better night. But I think it's more about the perimeter defense and keeping guys in front of them, because obviously, having a great shot blocker, you guys have a great shot blocker there, and Daniel Gafford, who's been playing great since he came over. But that's like a last resort almost, in my opinion. It all starts with the perimeter defense, keeping your guy out of the paint for so many drives. And I think that's what the Hawks struggled with against just Flynn really last night. Jaden Ivey had a really bad night. He only shot 4 of 13 from the field. No, he did shoot 3 of 15. Marcus Sasser was 4 of 13. Jalen Duren and Sasser had 11. But other than that, nobody was in double digits except for Flynn, obviously, with his 50-point performance. So the Hawks were able to limit everybody else. But hopefully, with two talented guys like Luka and Kyrie, they're able to play better defense. I imagine tonight you'll see DeAndre Hunter guarding Luka Doncic. He's had pretty good success against Luka in the past. If you look at kind of the efficiency numbers, he hasn't shot well when DeAndre Hunter has played. Dre did not play in the last matchup at State Farm Arena when Luka went for that. I think it was 73 points. But I don't think the Hawks will double either Luka or Kyrie. One, I just don't think they're athletic enough to kind of hedge and recover there and kind of rotate. But two, Dre has just defended Luka well, like I said before. So I don't think there's a need to kind of send two bodies there unless things are going haywire way too quickly here. But it'll be a fun game for sure against the Mavericks. I wish Dre was playing. Obviously, the Dre versus Luka battles are fun to watch, but obviously he's not going to be playing in this game. We got more updates for the Hawks on injuries. AJ Griffin as well. He's been out with a high ankle sprain. He's going to be reevaluated in that. Well, now it's 5 days, but it was 7 to 10 days when they sent that update. So it doesn't look particularly good for AJ as far as returning, and that's pretty much the same reevaluation date that Onyeka Okongwu got, and that's the big key word, right? Evaluation, a reevaluation. That does not necessarily mean that they're going to come back right then. And with 4 days left in the season, which is Onyeka's reevaluation date, I don't see how there's a great chance that he's going to be returning this season. So Bruno has stepped up as of late. Had that bad game last night, but he's had a good run recently, and hopefully he can get back to that tonight versus the Dallas Mavericks, because I think, Frank, you can correct me if I'm wrong, y'all have been playing a lot of small ball center since Derek Lively's been out. I think, PJ Washington has played in that center position some off the bench, even though he does start with Gafford kind of staggering those two. So if Bruno does indeed guard PJ Washington as a small ball center, he's going to have to step out to the 3-point line, but also more offensively. I do want to see Bruno kind of take charge and use his physicality, because he's stronger and taller than PJ Washington in the paint there. He should be able to really use his physicality to dominate offensively. And Maxi Kleber as well. He can shoot the 3 as well. So Bruno's going to have his hands full on the perimeter tonight if that is the case. But yeah, so really, I mean, the Hawks just continue to play pretty well despite the injuries. Obviously, Sadiq Bey, who I haven't really mentioned, going out with that torn ACL is just terrible for him. Contract year, and he was really improving defensively before he got injured. So it just sucks to see him go down like that. But guys have stepped up. Vit Krejci, you've seen him. Now the Hawks are going to need to make a decision before the play-in. They clinched the play-in spot last night against Detroit. It looks like they're going to be the 9th or the 10th seed. Right now, they're tied with Chicago for the 9th seed, but the Bulls have the tiebreaker, so they hold that 9th spot and the power to kind of host that play-in game for the first round. But they're going to have to make a decision on Vit Krejci. He can't play in the playoffs right now because he's on a two-way. They need to transfer him to an NBA contract, NBA standard contract, to be able to for eligibility for the postseason. Now, to do that, the Hawks have to cut somebody, and it can't be on a two-way. Now, do you look at Bruno? Do you look at Trent Forrest? Maybe Garrison Matthews, although I don't really think so. But to me, those are the only three candidates that if Quinn and Landry and the Hawks want Vit Krejci to play in the playoffs, they need to do that. They need to make a hard decision there to cut one of those guys. But if they don't, Vit Krejci can't play in the playoffs. And I think, in my opinion, Trent Forrest makes the most sense. And I don't want to knock Trent here, but since the organization believes so highly in Kobe Buffkin, and he's been playing the backup point guard minutes when he's been in there healthy, you've got the necessary manpower there for a backup point guard in Buffkin. So that makes Trent Forrest a little bit expendable there. But Garrison Matthews, right now he's been the sixth man with Trey out, coming off the bench, replacing Bogey pretty early. Same with Jalen Johnson. And then for Wesley Matthews, he kind of fits that defensive stopper role where you bring him in certain matchups that he can use his physicality and that veteran presence. He's found a role. And there's not any other guys on the roster that really do that. So, yeah, I think Trent Forrest, if they want to play Vit Krejci, has to be the way to go there. And yeah, Terry, I agree. Yeah, Jalen's gonna be a superstar in this league as long as he continues to just do what he's doing and learn to play even off of himself. Because earlier this season, you saw how without Trey Young in the lineup, Jalen Johnson struggled to get his own shot. And this area, while he's been hurt, I think it does help him in the long run, trying to get his own shot, using his shot creating ability and his more playmaking to open up the game for his teammates. In return, that's going to get him more shots as well. So I think he's responded well to that challenge, and he's been playing really well. Obviously, that triple-double was amazing. But kind of a shorter show today. I do want to move on to some Braves talk because the Hawks. Of course I said the Hawks. The Braves start the season with 3 wins and 2 losses. They win the series in Philadelphia, and in pretty convincing fashion, I thought, especially the first 2 games. You had Spencer Strider deliver a great performance on opening day when he went. I believe it was 6 innings. And he did make that one mistake, but it seems like he was able to deliver what he mostly does when he's healthy. It's funny because Phillies fans are always saying we want Strider. They're chanting that in the stands and everything. But Spencer Strider has dominated the Phillies in his career. It was only that one playoff game where he wasn't healthy. He was pitching 94-mile-per-hour fastballs. Obviously that Rhys Hoskins gif that Phillies fans always use. Now he's on the Brewers, and the Brewers and Mets had a little bit of a scuffle there with Jeff McNeil and Rhys Hoskins. But yeah, that was the fun thing. I'm pulling up the stats versus Strider versus the Phillies in his career right now, but it's really good. Like Strider owns he's at 8-0 with a 2.06 ERA and 80 strikeouts in just 9 appearances against the Phillies. So in earned runs allowed, obviously he had the highest earned runs allowed for Strider versus the Phillies in the last 2 years is 3. And this was all in the regular season. So He's pitched really well against the Phillies. Max Fried did not have a great start on the second day. Now, you can say that ref obviously terrible call on Nick Castellanos. Max Fried should have been out of that inning with no runs allowed, but that call altered the entire game. And the Max Fried had to be taken out in the first game. Not really often you see that from Max, but Jesse Chavez came in, the Braves legend, Jesse Chavez, 40-year-old man, and just absolutely carries the bullpen, honestly, for the first part of the game. It was huge what he did because the Braves won the game handedly still. And what Chris Sale did in the third game was have a long start that saved the bullpen even more. I thought Chris Sale pitched really well. He did make that one mistake to Kyle Schwarber, who that home run got out of here in a minute, less than a minute, in a second. If you blinked, you missed that Kyle Schwarber home run. And I'm thankfully he was able to limit the damage for the most part. But the Braves offense, for some reason, they can't figure out Ranger Suarez. And you got to give a lot of credit to Suarez because that's a really good lineup for the Braves. And he's pretty much been lights out against them for the most part in his career. We want to get to the latter part of the third game here because this is kind of when a lot of Braves fans, I thought, were debating about Aaron Bummer's performance. Brian Snitker's decision about bringing him out of the bullpen and leaving him in to face Alec Boehm there, who ended up delivering the RBI game-winning hit on a blooper. But this is my opinion. When Aaron Bummer comes in the game, you've got a guy on first. He gives up that single to Schwarber. You're like, okay, all right, two on, one out. First he pitches to Rojas, and he gets a perfect ground ball, perfect double play ball, and Arcia turns it well. Ozzie has a strong throw to first, but Rojas beats it out after the Phillies challenge, and that was the biggest play in the entire game because the inning would have been over. The Braves would have still had the lead, but no, it goes to Schwarber. Schwarber then singles up the middle. Trey Turner gets out. So there is a runner on first, runner on second, 2 outs. Into the game comes, bases loaded now, actually. Into the game, Aaron Bummer versus Alec Boehm. And now Bummer, I thought he pitched pretty well. Boehm hits it off the end of the bat. It's a blooper, and it drops right in front of Adam Duvall, who just couldn't get there on a diving attempt. And the Phillies scored 2 runs. Now, a lot of people said, Brian Snitker should have taken Aaron Bummer out immediately after Schwarber got on with that single. And yeah, the matchups, you probably want a Ryder in there, maybe probably Pierce Johnson to face Boehm and Trey Turner. Bummer pitched them well. I think he did give up that single to Schwarber, the walk to Trey Turner, but he should have been out in the inning before that. Rojas hit that double, should have been a double play ball, but he's just fast. That's what speed kills. And then he pitches a great pitch to Alec Boehm on the outside corner. Boehm stretches out and kind of just lightly taps it into left field just in front of Duvall. But Bummer pitched well, in my opinion. I mean, not lights out, but he pitched well enough to have a scoreless inning there. Just a little bit unlucky with that Boehm hit. And then obviously Rojas' ball wasn't hit hard enough to turn 2 on him with how fast he is. But I didn't really think it was a bad decision by Brian Snitker. The result, not what you want to see. But especially this early in the bullpen, you're not going to play matchups every single time. And I didn't think Bummer really pitched that badly. I saw a lot of Braves Twitter being mad with him. But I kind of didn't really understand that because it was soft contact that allowed those 2 runs to score. And after that, he probably should have been taken out. But Snitker probably wanted to try to save some of the bullpen arms. And I understand that this early in the season for sure. But yeah, Terry says Strider's going to break a lot of records. I think the next coming John Smoltz. I mean, his strikeouts that definitely can match that of Smoltz, maybe even more. Strider is just a strikeout machine. And with the game being postponed in Chicago, Strider is going to start the first game tomorrow against the Diamondbacks. It's going to be Strider, Fried, who we hope has a bounce back start, and then it's going to be Chris Sale versus the Diamondbacks. And the Diamondbacks are a good young team. Obviously, the way they made the World Series last year, beating the Phillies and taking down the Dodgers, it was definitely a crazy run for them in the postseason. Corbin Carroll, Christian Walker's been really good for them. Lourdes Gurriel is back, so they have a good young team. It should be an exciting series. Recapping the White Sox series, just 2 games there on the south side. Really bad weather. The first game there was 2 rain delays. Ultimately, it was called without playing the 9th inning, but the Braves won handily, 9-0. Austin Riley with his first homer of the day, or of the season, sorry, with the opposite field shot right out of the rain delay. And Charlie Moore was dominant in his first out start. Now, granted, the White Sox don't have a good offense. That does need to be said with context there, but he was really able to control a lot of his pitches. The curveball was working. He had a little bit of trouble in the first inning, but he was able to recover. He was able to mix in a lot of his pitches. I thought that curveball was really working, especially against Luis Robert. Robert could not see that pitch at all out of Charlie's hands. He had him guessing all night, and that's the best player. That's the best player on their roster. It was fun also facing off against former Brave Nicky Lopez. Braden Shoemake was also starting for the White Sox. So those are 2 former Braves. The Braves missed Mike Soroka in this series. Obviously, Soroka being traded to the White Sox in the offseason in the Aaron Bummer trade. But he started the second game of the season for them, did not start in a game against the Braves. I thought overall this White Sox series, the second game against Garrett Crochet, he's a monster. His stuff is ridiculous. And yeah, that was his first. This is his first year starting as a starting pitcher. You know, he was obviously a reliever way before now, but that curveball, especially to right-handed hitters, the back foot curveball is just nasty. I thought the Braves hitters looked very uncomfortable against him, and really the only guy who had comfortable at bats, I thought, throughout the night in that second game in the loss was Marcell Ozuna. He hit 2 homers there and got the lead down to 1. The Braves put up a fight in the last inning against Michael Kopech. The bases loaded, Travis D'Arnaud comes out, but he pops up to end the game. I thought the way that the White Sox got the runs, obviously Paul DeJong, a homer, credit to him, as he got a good pitch to hit and he delivered. But Andrew Vaughn and Gavin Sheets, both of their RBI hits were just little bloopers that found holes. And the Braves definitely got a little bit unlucky with the batting average in balls in play in that second game. I thought they played well enough to win, but offensively, the biggest thing that you look at if you're the Braves in that second game of the White Sox series is the 8th inning. I think Austin Riley, was it the 7th or 8th inning? It was the 7th inning. Austin Riley comes up with the bases loaded and 1 out, and then grounds into an inning-ending double play. Riley last season struggled with runners in scoring position for a good portion of the year, especially in the first half. Hopefully that's not what we see for the first half of this season, but it's not a good sign the way he has been able to hit with runners in scoring position lately. He did have that home run with runners on the corners and 2 outs right after the rain delay, but then the next day comes back and grounds into that double play. That kind of destroyed any momentum the Braves would have had going into the later innings, and it wasn't that great of a look for him. But overall, I think we've seen the team that we expected to see. Well, actually, I wanted to get to one more thing about the pitching before we kind of go on to more overarching stuff. Ronaldo Lopez looked really good in his debut for the Braves. He had been a reliever for the years prior. He came into the league as a starter with the White Sox, but then changed to a reliever once he had trouble. Now he's a starter with the Braves. He looked really good against his former team. The curveball was working. The fastball to lefties up and in was definitely located really well throughout the night. I thought that the velocity he has 97, 98 in the tank, even 99, but he didn't stay there throughout the entire game. He was more controlled, about 94, 95. And I think that's definitely going to bode well throughout the season when he kind of gets his thing as a starter. But overall, definitely let me know in the chat if you guys are confident, if you're kind of worried about the Braves to start the season, or if you were just expecting what they did. And to be honest, I think I'm just pretty happy with how they've started. I expected them to getting a sweep in Philly would have been nice, but I don't think that that last game didn't go their way. And then in Chicago, got to give credit to Garrett Crochet. He pretty much shut down the Braves offense for 6 innings before they ended up doing anything. But yeah, the Braves are looking good so far, in my opinion. Terry says, "Who does Acuna's brother play for? The Braves should try and trade for him to play shortstop." Yeah. Or speaking of that, Orlando Arcius had a good season so far offensively, and obviously the defense we know is there. So hopefully that continues. But yeah, he's actually in the Mets organization in AAA. He had a good day a couple days ago. He and another Mets prospect, I forget who it was, but they went back to back. And this was in the Max Scherzer trade. The Rangers actually had his name was Luis Angel Acuna. They had him in their minor league system before they traded him to the Mets at the deadline last season, when Max Scherzer went on to Texas and went on to win another World Series. But yeah, I agree, Maggie. I'm pretty happy with the start. Obviously, it feels like they could be 5-0. They definitely could have won the games that they lost, but not too worried about it. Offensively, little bit of a slow start for Acuna. The extra base hits aren't there, but I'm not worried about Ronald. Obviously, the MVP of last season. He still hit the ball hard. They've just been singles. Still waiting on that first homer of the year for Ronald Acuna, but I'm sure that's going to happen very soon. Ozzy Albies, just going down the lineup here, has had a really hot start to the season. Matt Olson had a good first 2 games. Kind of slowed down a little bit over the last 3. Riley has been okay. Obviously, the runners are scoring position. You want that to be better, but he's been okay. Marcelo Zuna, after a rough first 2 games, he's had a hot last 3 games with already 3 homers on the season, 1 in Philly and then 2 in the last game against Chicago. Then you have Sean Murphy going down on the IL after the first game of the season with a problem with his oblique. And especially for catchers, you want that to heal up completely. That was the problem that Spencer Strider was dealing with in the season, in 2 postseasons ago, when he made that start when he was injured. Obliques can definitely be those type of injuries can linger. So you definitely want those to be all healthy. Chadwick Trump was called up, the Tropical Storm, which is his Twitter handle. That's pretty creative name there. And Travis d'Arnaud are going to be handling the catching duties for a pretty good amount of time here with Sean Murphy on the IL. But yeah, overall, I think the offense has been pretty good. Michael Harris has had a strong start to the season. But Jared Kelenic, we have to talk about him because he had a rough spring training, and I never really put with proven guys. Obviously, Jared Kelenic hasn't really proven himself yet, but with proven guys like most of the players in the Braves lineup, I don't really put too much stock into offensive statistics in spring training. Pitching is different because you like to see, especially Strider's curveball, how that's doing at the beginning, what the velocities look like. Did they change any movement on their pitches, etc.? There's so many things I take a look at when watching spring training baseball and pitching aspect. But offensively, I don't pay attention to most. But Jared Kelenic, he had a really slow spring training. He had a great last 2 days of spring training, and he's carrying that into the regular season. He's been really good, especially up in Philly. And the way he's going the opposite way, hitting the ball hard, is really the most encouraging thing. He had great defense in Philly, too, when that was a question coming into the season. He dove for a ball, cut it off at the gap, made a nice play there to end an inning. I think that was the first. That was the first game of the season, I think. But Kelenic's been a pleasant surprise, and Adam Duvall, both of them have done their stuff offensively. Duvall had an injury-riddled season last year with a broken wrist, so hopefully the Braves can kind of have I won't say the Hawks again, have a full season of Adam Duvall and Jared Kelenic platooning, because that has worked so far. And let's see if they can continue their hot start. Going into this D-back series that starts tomorrow for a little bit, the Braves will miss Zach Gallen. They won't face the Cy Young candidate, but they'll probably see Brandon Pfaadt. I don't think Jordan Montgomery is pitching in this series. But yeah, and then they'll probably see Merrill Kelly. So Merrill Kelly and Brandon Pfaadt. Pfaadt's definitely a young pitcher, up and coming, but Merrill Kelly is their second best pitcher next to Zach Gallen. He's been almost a secondary ace for them over the past few years. So he's a great changeup. I remember the Braves faced him last season, and he had a lot of success against them. So hopefully they can figure him out. And it's opening series at Truist Park. I'm sure the fans are going to be wild. It's going to be a great time to catch a ball game because the weather's still not that hot, and it's looking like not too much rain here in the forecast for Atlanta over the next few days. So going to be a great series. And baseball returns to Atlanta. An exciting time if you're a sports fan for sure. April in the ATL, as they call it. You got Atlanta United, you got the Atlanta Hawks, you got the Atlanta Braves, all going at the same time. And the postseason for the Hawks is right around the corner. So they're going to play in the play-in. Hopefully they do well in the play-in and get ready to go something in the playoffs, because you never know. With how this team's playing right now, it just matters when you get hot. We saw that in baseball. And when you get hot like the Miami Heat did, you can make a run. And so let's see if the Hawks can do the same. With that, that's going to do it for this episode of Georgia Sports Nation. Thank y'all for tuning in. We'll be back next week, roughly around the same time on Thursday. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.